Welcome to Adult Education and Family Literacy Week and the Command Center, hosted by the Coalition on Adult Basic Education. I can't think of a better way to get us kicked off by bringing on a good friend of COABE's and doing some amazing work across the country, Dan Griffith from Central Education. Dan, how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Doing great. How are you this morning?
Good, good. Welcome to Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. It's finally here. We've been planning this for a bit, and we want to thank you for all the work you do at Essential Education. And I wondered if you could just give us a kickoff and what's on your agenda during Adult Education Family Literacy Week this week.
Thanks. Yeah, we're real excited for this week. We've been behind the scenes busily plotting new things and stuff to kind of kick this week off effectively. We announced last week a new partnership with a company called MindPlay, who's a K-12 reading program, and we are integrating their really incredible adaptive learning program into our program. So one of the things that we recognize as we work with students and teachers across the country is just this incredible need to bring reading skills up. And any growth in reading capacity creates better life, better learning, better opportunities. I was reading a report recently that showed everything from your partner choices in life to what schools you go to, what jobs you get, your lifetime earnings, all of that correlates back to how effectively you can read. And so we've integrated this incredible platform. It's fully adaptive. I know a lot of adult education teachers are not reading teachers by trade. They maybe haven't been steeped in K-12 reading strategies, or especially early reading when you have someone who comes in at a really low level. And so by integrating this in, we're providing a really important level of support at that low reading level so that our students can move forward. So it takes some of the stress off of teachers so that we can see better measurable skill gains and HSE completion rates. So
Yeah,
we're
wow.
super excited.
Yeah, you guys are doing some great work in the field, and I every time I turn around, something else is on your bucket list, and you're chipping away at it for adult education. What's this mean for your company, and what does it mean for adult education to really have a week that's dedicated to awareness, to recognition, to really recognizing the adults that are succeeding as students and the teachers that are doing some great work behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, our company is dedicated only to this, and that's a big part of what makes up Essential Education. I was dropped out of high school at the end of my junior year, and eventually went back and started at a community college. I got my HSE diploma and then became a teacher, became a math teacher, in large part because I wanted to give back and help other people find a pathway to learning like I did. Because K-12 K-12 is doing its best to educate millions and millions of students in a very large country. But it isn't, there's no panacea for that, and so there are going to be people who that system just doesn't work for. And unfortunately, what happens is they come out of that system thinking that they can't learn. And that's the wrong message. The correct message would be that this particular learning pathway is not the best one for you. And so to have a week like this where we can really focus legislators, community members, people across the country on the importance of adult education. The number that's always kicked around is that 36 to 50 million Americans who lack the skills to be successful in the workplace or in the country. We see projections of population drop-offs that are going to happen. So we're going to need people who can fill really important infrastructure jobs. And those infrastructure jobs have great wages. They're the kind of jobs that move people out of poverty, in the middle class, into stable lifestyles. And it's important that we're all engaged in helping adults who felt left behind in their education system to move into those. And the way you do that is by really, really focusing people on literacy, on their ability to succeed, and doing everything you can to help them get there.
It does truly make change happen when you can give someone the opportunity to get their high school equivalency and then move forward on post secondary. For the longest time, we all recognize that that our education and our labor departments have not really communicated also well, and now that's really starting to come together, especially with things like the infrastructure bill and career and technical training programs that are really recognizing how important it is to give people the math and reading skills they need to succeed. We're going to be meeting throughout the week with legislators across the country, from mayors to governors to senators, and I'm curious, when is what's the message that you like us to share with them from your perspective? What is it that legislators and administrators in that work in the Department of Education and other places that they need to know and understand?
I think that there's some really, really cool things happening in adult education. We, as a company, we try to be innovators in the field and partners. And those are the two words that I hope people associate with essential education. As a private company, you can often do more than an institution that's part of a bureaucracy can do. So we can try things. We can experiment with things. We recently, you talk about labor and education. We just started creating badges that automatically populate Credly in our workforce digital literacy, and we're moving into all of our programs so that it'll automatically push those badges into Credly, and an adult learner can show an employer what their skill set really is. And we've actually already seen these populating, because Credly then populates LinkedIn and Facebook. We've already seen people's badges from our program showing up in LinkedIn. And I think that's really cool because, that shows an employer that this individual is in the digital age. They have the capacity to, move forward, to use technology in a way that would be meaningful in their workplace. And that can be from small levels to high levels. And having that kind of badging connection is an innovation that allows employers, labor, education, all to work together to help people get good jobs and um, help their communities and their areas.
Yeah, I love it. One of the things that happened within the last few years is the Digital Equity Act
Yeah.
was passed as part of the infrastructure bill, and we're going to see more and more of the importance of getting people not only access to broadband but the digital literacy that are required to do a lot of these jobs. So I'm so glad that education is taking the lead on some of this and really getting their work out there. If there was one ask of a legislator that you might have, or someone that may have authority or the ability to make change happen, what would that ask be?
Well, we want more money, Jeffrey.
Of course, of course. Yes. You can't
That's
do good work without it, right?
that's right. Well, no,
Well, you
I mean,
can, but it's hard.
yeah, I mean, beyond that, I think one of the things that is really important is people have to understand that for a person to really change their life, it's, I mean, for lack of a better term, you really can't just throw money at it. You have to be committed to kind of a long process with someone. People come into adult education with varying degrees of trauma and these learning disabilities. I think there was a report recently released on incarcerated individuals, like 80% are undiagnosed with learning disabilities. Um, my wife is a counselor and getting her PhD in counseling, and there's studies that show that the amount of trauma that you have between age 0 and 6 is related to just about every problem people have in their life. It's from being overweight to drug addictions to all kinds of learning issues, things like that. So, we're dealing with people who have had really tough starts to their life in most cases. And so you can't just, there isn't just some magic wand that does this. And you have to have people who are willing to really dig in and help somebody. I was talking to an adult educator recently and listening to the host of problems that they were helping a student solve, from daycare to transportation to feeling safe in a place where they could study, to making sure that they had some stability in a place to go and be at night, things like that. And that's hard, and it takes a lot of resources, and it takes a lot of commitment, but the payoff is enormous. If you really can get in there and help people in a very hands-on way, then you can change not just one person's life, but you change their family, and that family changes a community, and they leave a legacy of learning that's passed generation to generation to generation. And that's really where we have to focus. We have to be really willing to do the real work and not just write a check or something and move on.
Wow, that's so true. This is adult education is definitely takes a village, right? And I think you said it so well. It's not just putting somebody in a classroom and giving them, a program or some instruction. It's really all those other services that surround them, making sure that they can get to class, making sure that they have access to a computer and broadband, making sure that they can have food and a place to live, and they're getting support for their behavioral health issues that they might need, so that they can get straightened out and continue on their journey. So awesome. So give us a little bit, just what's in store for essential education. What do you have on the horizons?
Yeah, so well, many of you know, last year we created the integration with DRC to actually drive the TAPE test results directly into our TAPE Academy program. So their individual profile report is now available to push directly into our program, which was an incredible innovation in the field. I really think that was one of those things that can change the way teachers see the data that assessments offer and use it to make really valid instructional decisions. We've just launched 2 new guides to help teachers. One is on distance education, and I'm really proud of that because it's a learning journal. So we didn't just write something that's a bunch of content. We looked around. There's great content out there. World Ed has a remarkable guide to distance education. There's other great content that's been put out over the last couple of years with COVID and the move to distance education. What we created was a journal so that a teacher could start learning and keep track of that progress and make iterative progressions in their classroom with distance education. And so really excited about that because it's a different approach. We're about to launch a differentiation guide. So for teachers, the last COABE journal was all about differentiated instruction. We've got a really cool, we call it the 3D process for differentiation that we put together, and we're about to launch that, and we're really excited about what that'll mean for teachers. These are all free materials that we create as part of our commitment to adult education and adult educators. We've also launched a lot of work over the last year with our training team. And so we invested heavily in making sure that we have really incredible trainers that can help people learn to use our programs in the most efficient way. And we hired some great people out of the field, a director, Charlie Weeks, who came from Oklahoma, and he runs that group. And they're really doing innovative things to get people onboarded, using our program as effectively as possible. When I was a kid, there was a little, we had a Hot Wheels track.
I remember those.
Yeah, and it came down, and they came out with this thing at the bottom that the car went through, and it had these little spinners that like hyper speeded the car. Do you remember that?
I remember that well.
Yeah, so that's my mental image of all this. It's like, we can't, you can't take the teacher out of the classroom, but what we can do is be that little hyper speeding thing. So the teacher does such great work to get students on track, and when they hit our program should help that teacher accelerate that student and those teachers' goals through anything that they want to accomplish.
That is just a super analogy. I'm going to go home. I'm going to be thinking about that for the next day. I may have to go try and find out where mine is, my old Hot
I
Wheels that
know.
I had.
I've been looking
Great.
on eBay for one.
Hey, the search goes on. Anyone out there, it's listen. If you got one, send us a picture. We love it.
Right.
Dan, I want to thank you for your sponsorship and the sponsorship of Essential Education, but more importantly, your friendship. You've been a great friend to COABE and to adult education across the country. Your company and your passion are you're not only doing great work, but you guys walk the walk, and you are amazing at what you do. We're really proud to be associated with you and partnering with you And again, we wish everybody out there, check out Essential Education if you have an opportunity, and some of the products and work that they're doing out there. And Dan, have a great week. If you have anything coming up this week, you should know, Dan, and our audience, that if you go to the COABE website, coabe.org, we have a whole list of things going on that you can jump in, and podcasts and guests coming in. And Amy Lloyd from the United States Department of Education will be here shortly. So just stay tuned to this channel, and we're going to keep it live streaming for all day, all week, until the end of Adult Education and Family Literacy Week. So Dan, thank you so much for being on, and we'll check in with you very shortly. Take care, everybody.